Hey guys, I'm Synthwave and welcome back to my channel. Tonight I've got all sorts of facts about Resident Evil 4 that we're going to dive into together. I absolutely loved the discussion and comments from everyone last time, so if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you're feeling like you want more of this kind of content, then hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, as they say, let's just jump into it. The most iconic NPC in Resident Evil history has never once told us who or what he actually is. The Merchant. He has a trench coat, a bandana. Stranger, what are you buying? Capcom has genuinely never explained his origin. We got nothing. And it's not for a lack of fan theories. In the original 2005 game, his eyes glow yellow just like the Ganados. The Plagas infected villagers Leon's fighting all game, so is he infected too and just immune to the mind control? Some fans think that he cut a deal with the Los Illuminados, trading weapons for safe passage. Others think he might not even be human at all. And it's weird because he can appear in multiple far apart locations within minutes, and if you kill him, he just shows up again somewhere else later. Completely fine, and Capcom has never clarified whether he's the one guy or several identical merchants. The remake actually leans into this mystery on purpose. Capcom made him look more human this time, dropping the glowing eyes entirely, which honestly raises more questions than answers. And it doesn't stop there. A Resident Evil Village's own weapons dealer, the Duke, calls him an old friend by name. So somehow these two mysterious merchants across totally different games and eras know each other. Capcom's official stance on all this? Nothing. Leon's most quoted line in Resident Evil history was nearly deleted from the remake entirely. You know the one, Leon's getting swarmed by an entire village of Ganados, a church bell rings, every single villager just drops what they're doing and shuffles off to church. And Leon, alone and confused, goes, "Where's everyone going? Bingo?" That line from the original 2005 game voiced by Paul became one of the most quoted lines in the whole franchise. Total deadpan delivery in the middle of a horror game. When Capcom remade RE4 in 2023, the new Leon, voiced by Nick Apostolides, actually had a different line written for the exact moment. But according to Apostolides himself, it just wasn't landing on set, so the cinematic director had him try something. Just say the old bingo line instead. It worked instantly, and that's the version that made it into the final remake. So technically, two different actors 18 years apart delivered the exact same joke, because nothing they wrote could beat the original perfect deadpan chaos. Some lines just don't need fixing. Ramon Salazar, that shriveled little castle lord from RE2, looks like he's pushing 90, but canonically, he's 20 years old. His whole aged, wrinkled, tiny appearance isn't old age at all. It's a result of the childhood illness plus the Plaga parasite fused into his body as a kid. His mother secretly had Los Illuminados implant him with the Plaga to save his life after doctors basically gave up on him. It worked, but it also left him stunted and prematurely withered for the rest of his life. And the darker part is that Salazar grew up isolated, cruel, and completely moldable, which made him the perfect target for Osmond Saddler to manipulate into literally unsealing the ancient Plagas his own ancestors had buried generations earlier. The exact why behind his aged appearance isn't 100% nailed down in canon. Some material frames it as purely illness, others tie it directly to the Plaga's side effect, so take the parasite aging angle as a particular theory rather than dead confirmed lore. Either way, he's only 20, and he looks like an old man. Krauser and Leon's history got completely rewritten for the RE4 remake, and it actually makes him a better villain. In the original 2005 game, Krauser and Leon were partners, equals sent together on Operation Javier in 2002 to take down a bioweapon-dealing drug lord. Krauser survives, loses an arm, gets obsessed with viral power, and eventually fakes his death to go work for Albert Wesker. The remake throws that whole dynamic out. Now Krauser isn't Leon's partner, he's Leon's mentor. He personally trained Leon in the secret government program. Operation Javier becomes a mission where Krauser led an entire unit of soldiers, and every single one of them died except him, with the government covering it up and refusing to send an evacuation. That betrayal is what pushes him towards the Los Illuminados, and this time it's entirely his own choice, no Wesker manipulation involved. In their final fight, when Leon finally beats him, Krauser doesn't call him Rookie like he does the whole game. He uses his actual name. It's basically Krauser admitting right before dying that he trained Leon well enough to be the one that ended him. So depending on which version of RE4 you're going by, Krauser is either a bitter equal who got jealous of Leon's status or a broken mentor betrayed by a system he served. Wesker's Las Plagas sample, the thing that fuels his master plan in RE5, has two completely different origin stories depending on which game you ask. In the original Resident Evil 5, it's stated that Wesker got his Plagas sample from the black market Umbrella researcher named Ricardo Irving, who sold it to him for cash to help fund his Ouroboros project. But the RE4 remake tells a different story. In the Separate Ways DLC, Ada Wong is shown betraying Wesker and refusing to hand over the sample she extracted for him, except it doesn't matter. The scene reveals Wesker already secured a Plagas sample anyway by recovering Jack Krause's corpse after Leon killed him. That sample is what lets Wesker create his own Ouroboros virus in the first place. So which is it? Did Wesker get his Plaga from Krause's body or buy it from Irving? Capcom's never fully reconciled this, but it is entirely possible that both are true and Wesker just needed more than one sample. But as written, the two games genuinely tell a different origin story. The very first boss in RE4 is the Giant Village Chief. He nearly kills Leon in the opening minutes. He actually used to be the town's Catholic priest. Torres Mendez ran the local church before Los Illuminados got their hooks into him. Once he converted, Sadler rewarded his loyalty with something special, a newly engineered dominant species Plaga, the same tier of parasite given to Salazar, which is why Mendez isn't a mindless Ganado grunt. He's massive, insanely strong, and fast enough to sneak up on a trained government agent twice, basically bulletproof. He also lost an eye at some point and replaced it with a fake one, which becomes a literal key item, since his artificial eye is what unlocks the retina scanner gate out of the village after Leon kills him. One difference worth flagging: in the original 2005 game, Mendez barely speaks, just grunts through the entire encounter, but the 2023 remake actually gives him full dialogue during the boss fight, so depending on which version you played, you either fought a silent monster or a priest who talks all the way through to his own death. Leon's snarky sidekick, Luis, has two completely different backstories depending on which version of RE4 you play. In the original 2005 game, Luis is a Spanish biologist recruited straight into the Los Illuminados to research a Plaga parasite. He's disillusioned with the cult, feels guilty about the monsters he's helped create, and tries to make things right by helping Leon and Ashley. The 2023 remake throws in a much bigger twist. Luis isn't a Los Illuminados researcher at all. He's a former Umbrella scientist. He specifically worked at Umbrella's Europe Laboratory 6, the exact same lab that developed the Nemesis T-type bioweapon from RE3. After the Raccoon City incident, he was guilt-ridden over what his research enabled. He quit and went home to Spain, right as the Los Illuminados was taking over his village. So, in the remake, the guy who created Nemesis Core Plaga Tech is the same guy helping Leon fight through this cult, a direct thread that ties RE4 back to RE3's monster. Either way, Luis still dies in both versions, killed by Sadler or by Krauser, depending on which version, while trying to protect the Plaga sample. But whether he's a cult scientist or an ex-Umbrella defector completely changes how you read his guilt and redemption arc. Those two chainsaw-wielding women who nearly killed you in RE4's village, they're not infected in the same way as every other villager. Most Ganados got a Plaga egg implanted directly, which is why regular villagers act mostly normal until they get provoked. The Chainsaw Sisters, officially nicknamed the Bella Sisters in some in-game text item, were infected differently. Their Plaga was introduced straight into their bloodstream through the head, which is exactly why they're both wrapped head to toe in bandages. A different infection method is also why they're so much more tankier and faster with those chainsaws than a standard Ganado. They only show up together as a duo, you never fight just one, and they hit hard enough to one-shot Leon if the chainsaw connects. Ada Wong runs into them too during Separate Ways, so it's not just a Leon exclusive nightmare. Nobody in the games ever explains who they were before Los Illuminados got to them, not even a name beyond the unofficial Bella Sisters tag. Just two people turned into one of the most feared enemy encounters in the whole game. El Gigante, the towering troll-like monster that nearly crushes Leon early in RE4, started out as an ordinary human being because of course he did. Los Illuminados created El Gigante by infecting a human host with Las Plagas, and somehow the parasite grew that person into a massive, hulking, mostly mindless creature. Nobody's ever explained exactly how the size increase happens. Even in universe, it's treated as an unpredictable side effect of the parasite mutation. Only 4 of them ever existed in the whole game, and the key detail is that unlike regular Ganados, El Gigante loses basically all reasoning. It's pure animal instinct, strong enough to rip trees out of the ground and throw boulders, but its one true weak spot is the same for all of them. The overgrown Plaga bursts right out of their spine once you deal enough damage. Destroy that parasite and the giant drops instantly, no matter how much health it's got left. So, under all that muscle and rage, there's technically still a person in there somewhere, just completely consumed by the parasite riding shotgun in their spine. Oh, I'm just gonna squeeze right in here. I just wanted to tell you guys that according to my YouTube analytics, 99.8% of viewers were not subscribed on my last video. This doesn't actually surprise me considering it was my first one. However, it would really help me out if you did, so absolutely smash that subscribe button and we can get the bigger number equals better person mark. Resident Evil 4 was supposed to be a Nintendo exclusive forever. Capcom broke that promise within the same year it launched. Back in 2002, Capcom announced 5 games exclusive to the GameCube, nicknamed the Capcom 5. This was to help prop up Nintendo's struggling console. RE4 was the headliner, personally overseen by the series creator Shinji Mikami. Mikami was so committed to the exclusivity that he reportedly said he'd cut off his own head if RE4 ever got ported to another system. But RE4 did launch on the GameCube in January 2005, but by October of that same year, it was out on the PS2. Of the 5 so-called exclusives, only one, PN03, actually stayed GameCube only. Everything else jumped ship. It's worth flagging that the cut off my own head quote is widely repeated, but at least one source calls it a probable mistranslation. So treat that with a grain of salt. Even though the broken promise itself is very real, Nintendo fans still bring this up as one of the greatest gut punches of the GameCube era. There's a way to make Ashley Graham completely invincible in the RE4 remake. Even Leon's own bullets can't hurt her. It's a hidden reward called the Knight Armor costume, and it's brutal to unlock. You have to beat the entire remake on hardcore difficulty in under 10 hours. Do that and you get to equip Ashley in a full suit of medieval armor for future playthroughs. When she's wearing it, she's immune to basically everything. Enemy attacks, explosions, even friendly fire from Leon himself. Enemies in the game love grabbing Ashley and running off with her, but with the armor on, they can't. She's too heavy for them to carry. The whole armor mechanic is remake exclusive. The original 2005 game never had anything like it. In the OG version, Ashley was just as vulnerable as ever. No cheat code night suit to bail you out, so this one's purely a modern quality of life reward for the most hardcore of speedrunners. The insect-like monster guarding Salazar in RE4 used to be his personal butler, and in the remake he got a full name and backstory nobody saw coming. In the original 2005 game, the Vertigo, that armored scorpion-tailed creature stalking Leon through the sewers, barely gets any explanation. It's just implied to be Salazar's transformed butler. No name, no real story. The remake fixes that completely. His name Isidro Uriarte Talavera, if that makes sense to you, a Los Illuminados scientist who was already secretly working on Plaga experiments before he ever became a monster himself. He actually is the guy responsible for creating the Novastardos, those camouflaging little insect creatures, and later Pasantra, Salazar's other mutated bodyguard made from the family housekeeper. He was also so committed to Sadler's cause that after seeing how powerful Pasanta turned out, he basically volunteered to become a second Vertigo himself, just to prove his devotion. He kept his human intelligence the whole time too, so in the remake he'll literally taunt Leon with a little finger wag if you miss a shot. Depending on which version you're playing, this boss is either a faceless silent monster in a robe, or a fully named mad scientist who mutated himself on purpose to outloyal his own creation. The remake basically gave one of the original's most forgettable sub-bosses an entire redemption arc into actually terrifying. The camera angle behind Leon's shoulder in RE4 didn't just work for this game, it rewrote the rulebook for third-person shooters across the board. Before 2005, third-person games almost always kept the camera high above the character or fixed at awkward angles. RE4 was the first mainline entry to ditch the series' classic fixed camera, and instead lock it right behind Leon's shoulder, zooming in tight whenever he aimed a weapon. Capcom actually showed this off years earlier at E3 2003 in one of RE4's scrapped early builds, complete with the over-the-shoulder view and laser sight targeting, already intact years before the final 2005 release. Once RE4 launched, it didn't just influence other Resident Evil games, it became an industry default. The over-the-shoulder precision aim perspective spread across an entire generation of action games that followed. So next time you literally play any modern third-person shooting game and instinctively expect that tight camera hugging your camera's shoulder, that entire perspective traces straight back to a horror game about killing cultists in rural Spain. Ganado literally means cattle, and that's the point. Every villager you're gunning down in RE4, that game's actual term for them translates to livestock. Ganado is Spanish for cattle, and Los Illuminados chose that word on purpose. Once Osmond Sadler's cult takes over a village, they inject the population with Plaga eggs disguised as a baptism ritual. stripping away free will and turning former farmers and fishermen into loyal, disposable followers who kill trespassers on command. The darker detail that's buried in the lore is that the children of the village couldn't survive the parasite at all. They were simply killed by it. That is the actual reason you never see a single kid anywhere in the game. Sadler's flock only survives among adults who can physically handle the infection. So the name isn't just flavor text, it's Los Illuminados openly admitting that these people are cattle to them. They're not villagers, they're not people, they're just livestock to be herded, used, and thrown at the intruders like Leon. The most iconic villager in RE4 is the chainsaw guy with a sack over his head. And he was never actually named Dr. Salvador in the original Japanese script. In Capcom's own internal design documents, he's just called Chainsaw Man. No name, no title. Dr. Salvador only shows up because Capcom's English localization team slapped that name onto his collectible bottle cap item, implying that he was the village doctor before Los Illuminados got to him, which would explain why he's built like a tank and unfazed by pain. But the twist is, even the doctor framing isn't consistent. The reason he and the Chainsaw Sisters hit so much harder than regular villagers isn't medical training. It's that their plaga was implanted straight into the bloodstream through the head instead of the usual method, which is also why they wear the sack and bandages in the first place. And in the 2023 remake, Capcom quietly dropped the Dr. Salvador name entirely. He's officially just called the Chainsaw Villager. So one of RE4's most legendary villains technically had 3 different names across 3 different versions of the game. Resident Evil 4's Los Illuminados, the cult hunting Leon through RE4, wasn't founded by Sadler. He just revived something that was supposedly wiped out centuries earlier. According to in-game records shown in the remake, Los Illuminados first went public as a heretical sect back in 1554, worshipping Las Plagas as a divine gift from God. The first Castilian of Salazar Castle saw the cult as a threat, crushed it, and sealed the parasites deep in the tombs beneath its own castle. Historical records place the cult's final destruction all the way in 1741, when the Salazar family finished the job for good, or so everyone thought. The parasites didn't actually die, they fossilized and sat dormant at a cellular level for centuries. Osmond Sadler grew up around the old teachings, tracked down the lonely, impressionable 8th Castilian, Ramon Salazar, and convinced him to personally unseal his family's own ancient prison. That's the excavation that kicks off the entire game. Ashley Graham used to top the most annoying video game character lists. Capcom's remake was a direct apology for that. In the 2005 original, Ashley's escort sections were infamous. Her AI was so bad that leaving her alone even for a few seconds usually meant that she'd get snatched by a villager. She'd deliver most of her lines in a whiny, panicked tone, and if she took one hit from an enemy, it was an instant game over. No in between. The 2023 remake rebuilt nearly all of it. She's no longer an instant fail health bar. She gets downed instead of dying outright, giving Leon a chance to revive her. Her AI actually tries to evade capture instead of freezing in place. She can climb ladders, crawl through gaps, and dodge on her own. And Capcom rewrote her dialogue and personality entirely, giving her more agency and confidence instead of constant distress. It's rare for a remake to so directly target one specific piece of fan backlash and rebuild it from the ground up, but Ashley might be the single most improved character across any Resident Evil remake. One of the most memorable set pieces in the original RE4 Clock Tower section got almost completely cut from the 2023 remake. In the 2005 original, after Leon triggers a lever puzzle in Salazar's throne room, a massive stone statue of Salazar himself comes to life and physically chases Leon through the building, smashing pillars and crashing through walls behind him, before finally getting destroyed and falling through a bridge. It's a full-on set piece. The remake keeps a version of this statue now breathing fire and acting more like an obstacle you navigate around or disable by shooting an explosive barrel on its head. But it never gets up and chases you the way it did originally. In the original, when you finally corner Salazar in the tower, he literally fuses with the Vertigo creature into one combined boss, and you have to shoot the Vertigo's eyes to expose Salazar as the real weak point underneath. The remake's version of this fight ditches the fusion entirely. It's just Salazar on his own, spitting acid and setting off explosive goo around the arena. So depending on which version you played, Salazar's final showdown is either a man literally wearing a giant bodyguard as armor, or a solo fight against a guy who's just really good at throwing bombs. The remake trims some spectacle here, even while expanding almost everything else about the cast. The original RE4 had a random monster boss nicknamed It that barely got explained. The remake gave her an entire tragic backstory. In the 2005 original, Sadler just calls the creature It before unleashing it on Leon in the underground cavern. A grotesque chimera fused from human, insect, and reptile DNA. No name, no story, just a nightmare thrown at you mid-game. The remake completely rebuilds who this creature actually is. She was once Ramon Salazar's unnamed housekeeper. The same housekeeper who witnessed young Salazar burn a servant's face with acid out of pure cruelty. Isidro, the scientist who later became the Vertigo himself, experimented on her to fuse human and insect genetics, eventually transforming her into a creature he named Pasanta. She became one of Salazar's 2 personal bodyguards, and her official in-game name during the fight isn't U3 at all anymore, it's just Persanta. So one version gives you a nameless lab failure with almost no story, and the other gives you a woman who watched her employees' cruelty firsthand, then got turned into a monster and weaponized against the very people trying to stop him. Same boss fight, but a completely different level of tragedy. The giant lake monster that drags Leon around in RE4 started life as a normal-sized salamander. Del Lago, Spanish for "from the lake," was one of Los Illuminados' earliest Plaga experiments. They infected a regular salamander with the parasite, and the Plaga reacted to its small host by growing to its monstrous size. There was just one problem. The cult couldn't actually control its behavior through the parasite the way that they wanted. So instead of using it as a weapon, they just sealed it away in a village lake, and used it as a disposal system, feeding the bodies of anyone who crossed them. It stayed locked away, forgotten, until Sadler deliberately woke it up to specifically stop Leon from crossing the lake towards the church. It's the only boss fight in the entire game where Leon isn't on foot with guns and a knife. You're stuck in a tiny motorboat with nothing but an unlimited supply of harpoons somehow, just trying to survive getting dragged around the lake while stabbing a monster you could barely even see. So one of the very first bosses of the game is technically one of Los Illuminados' failures. A weapon they couldn't tame repurposed into a glorified garbage disposal that just happened to nearly kill Leon Kennedy. Leon's cluttered attaché case in RE4 became one of the most iconic inventory systems in gaming, and it started as a total departure from every previous Resident Evil. Every earlier RE game simply used inventory slots, 1 item per space. RE4 threw out that concept entirely for a grid-based case, where every weapon and item has a specific shape and size, and you physically rotate and slot the pieces together like Tetris to make everything fit. Bigger cases cost more money from the merchant, and topping out at double of your starting space. It's such a beloved mechanic that fans still make memes about Leon's disorganized suitcase, and there's even a standalone puzzle game called Save Room built entirely around recreating the exact same Tetris inventory feeling. The 2023 remake added an auto sort button that instantly organizes everything for you. It was convenient, yes, but a lot of longtime fans genuinely mourned losing the manual puzzle solving tension, especially the classic panic moment of frantically rearranging your case mid-fight because you can't fit a rocket launcher. Quality of life won out over chaos. Ada Wong tossing Leon a rocket launcher to finish an unbeatable boss isn't a one-time moment. It's basically her signature move across 2 different games. In RE2, right as Leon's about to lose against the mutated T-103 Tyrant, Ada, badly wounded and hiding in the shadows, throws him a rocket launcher just in time to finish it off, then disappears before he can properly thank her. Then, in RE4, during the final battle against Osmond Sadler, the exact same beat plays out. Leon's fight goes south and Ada shows up out of nowhere to hand him a rocket launcher for the killing blow. 2 different games, 2 different Umbrella-adjacent conspiracies, and the exact same rescue. It became such a defining part of her character that later games and spin-offs like Umbrella Chronicles reference it directly. There's literally a mission named after the RE2 moment. Ada's whole ongoing dynamic with Leon can basically be summed up to disappear for a few years, show up right when he's about to die, hand him the weapon he needs, and then vanish again. Forget the rocket launcher. The RE4 remake's final boss had a secret weakness, and it's the golden egg. A single golden egg thrown directly at Ramon Salazar in the boss fight deals a whopping 70% of his total health and damage instantly. Land a second one and he's basically dead on the spot. No magnum, no rocket launcher required. This is not a glitch, but it is an intentional lore joke Capcom hid in a side quest. Earlier in the game, there's an optional mission called The Disgrace of the Salazar Family, where you're asked to deface a portrait of Salazar in the throne room, and the only item that can actually damage the indestructible painting is a thrown egg. It's the game quietly telling you hours in advance exactly how to end its final boss. This whole mechanic is remake exclusive. The original 2005 game never had anything like it. Golden eggs were there just for a healing item or something to sell to the merchant. where's everyone going? Bingo? That iconic church bell in RE4's Village Fight, the one that ends the whole encounter and leads straight into that line. You can ring it yourself whenever you want. In the village sequence, you're normally meant to survive waves of Ganados and Dr. Salvador's Chainsaw Man until the church bell naturally rings, signaling everyone to retreat. But players discovered you can climb through a window onto a rooftop, aim at the distant bell tower through the trees, and shoot the bell directly, which instantly triggers the retreat cutscene early, skipping most of the fight. But your starting pistol genuinely can't make the shot. It's really only practical on New Game Plus, once you have a rifle with a scope. So Capcom basically built in this reward for veteran players. The more times you survive the brutal opening fight the hard way, the easier it becomes to skip it on future runs. Capcom confirmed this is an intentional mechanic, so somewhere in the devs team's design docs, someone deliberately planned let players end the scripted horror sequence early with one perfect shot, and it made it all the way to launch. Throughout RE4, Wesker is only ever heard giving orders to Ada and Krauser over the phone as the shadowy figure orchestrating the whole Plaga heist. But in the remake's mercenary mode, added alongside the Separate Ways DLC, Wesker becomes a fully playable character, complete with his own loadout and a unique Mayhem mode ability that temporarily boosts his power. It's the closest RE4 ever gets to actually letting players control him directly, years before he becomes a full protagonist adjacent character in RE5. So not just a disembodied voice orchestrating events from the shadows, Mercenaries mode actually lets you play as him. That's all the Resident Evil 4 facts that I have for you tonight. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you want more of this kind of content. I also released a video where I talk about the tank controls of the original Resident Evil game. It'll show up on your screen and you can click and go right to it. Otherwise, if you missed my first video, you can go back and watch that too. I'll link that on the screen as well. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day, night, morning, evening, afternoon, or whatever it may be, and I'll see you in the next video.